Hello, welcome to Gentle Flow Yoga. Today, we're going to kind of do a whole bunch of little things. I purposely really didn't have much planned for today's class, and the reason was because I've been teaching a lot of classes online, and there's this online, like when you post a class online, you have to kind of talk about what you're going to do, and it gets very subjective and very focused, and it's kind of taking a little bit out of the teaching by allowing things to arise in the moment. So for today's class, we're just going to get into some breathing techniques and start to see what kind of shows up, and just go from there. Safety disclaimer, make sure that you have absolutely you're not moving towards any pain, so any dull, aching sensations must be completely avoided. Any type of sharp, stinging sensation also needs to be completely avoided. Yoga is not a high-intensity sport. It's not a no pain, no gain type situation. There will come times when you might feel a bit of effort and a bit of feedback from the body, but it's up to you to really decide if that feedback is something to continue with or something to move away from. And if it's any kind of, if you'd ever use the word pain or painful, then that needs to be completely walked away from, okay? So if you don't have a bolster or sitting up on something, I would recommend that, because we're gonna do a few things in the seated posture. I'm just feeling like I wanna open up my shoulders, and I'm feeling like I wanna do some breath work. So we're going to start there and then carry on with the class. So come to a cross-legged seated position. Just come into your breath. Start to breathe through your nose. Let your hands go where they want to go. And just start breathing through the nose as we normally do. We're pretty familiar with a lot of this, especially if you go to yoga pretty commonly. You usually start with a nice flow, something soft in through the nose, out through the nose. Allow everything to kind of settle down. And I'm curious about what happened with our hands in this position. So I know oftentimes people come into yoga and there's this immediate putting hands on knees, palms face up, or touching the fingers, or coming into prayer. And while the ritual aspect of a practice is very important, remember that it's about feeling where you want to go. So if you feel like your hands are more in front of you, like mine are, that's okay. And if you feel like you want to bring your hands back and stay there, that's okay. There really is no sacred geometry here. This is really just about tuning in with the body and tuning in with the mind and taking some breaths there. Okay. So from here, go ahead and just inhale, reach your palms up, kind of like in Tall Mountain. Stay there for a few breaths. Okay, so with your hands up here, I want you to think about your side body, your left and your right side, kind of where the obliques are, all the way up to the armpits. And you're just going to keep your right arm where it is and bring your left hand down to the ground. Okay? So you shouldn't be feeling any reaching up. It should be just kind of a comfortable, you've pivoted from the shoulder up, but you're not bending the side body. And then we're going to do kind of a side opener from left to right. So just bring the right arm down. So now both palms are down, but you still have a tall torso. With the right hand, you're going to inhale, reach up, and then exhale, reach over. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, bring it right down. Inhale the left arm up, reach over. Inhale the left arm back up, come down. We're going to keep the same pattern of movement, right arm up and then over. But I want you to understand the rib cage here. Okay? So one breath is arm up, one breath is arm over, arm up, arm down, just switching sides. But what I want you to articulate here is your ability to not have to side stretch the body. So what do I mean by that? So as I inhale and reach my left arm up, I just go straight up. I don't bend my right side body until the exhale when I tilt the rib cage over. Now I'm bending the side. Okay? So every time you reach back up towards the ceiling, just have that pivoting action coming from the armpit and the shoulder, not the side body. The side body only comes into play when you're bending further towards the ground. Okay, we'll do a couple more times. I'm going to inhale my left arm up, side body stays still. Then as I exhale, my rib cage tilts over, and then I get that side body stretch. I inhale back to center, both side bodies neutral, left palm down, inhale right palm up, exhale side body, inhale neutral, and down. Do one more time each side. This is about kind of decoupling our side body movement with the direction of our arm. And understanding that we have a side body that moves independently if we want it to. Okay, good. So pause here after you finish the one that you're on, and hopefully you feel a tallness in the side of the body. And then from here, we're going to do some twists. So just inhale your left palm up, exhale your left palm to your right knee, bring the right palm behind you. Relax the seat, so relax the pelvis and the legs, all stay nice and forward. Just inhale where you are, and exhale, just move your ribs to the right. Inhale back forward, exhale, turn the ribs. Keep this going, inhale forward, exhale, turn the ribs. Inhale forward. This time, exhale, turn and go to your fuller expression. Stay there. You can let your head turn, look behind you as well. Now, so I'm hoping that your low back isn't arching here, and I'm hoping that your spine is staying nice and tall. And we're going to test that. So you should be able to take that left palm and reach it out towards the right. So you're kind of reaching the direction that you're looking. And then you want to pick up your right palm and try to reach it behind you. So if this caused a lot of panic in the pelvis, or a lot of having to shift to get your balance, there's a good chance that you arched your back or you moved in a way that was causing more flexion than need be. Inhale, open both arms towards the front. And exhale the hands to the knees. Pause for one breath and feel the echoes of that in the body. So hopefully you have kind of a decent experience on the right side. Maybe even in the left shoulder. And then we're going to switch sides. Inhale the right hand up. Right hand to left knee. Left palm behind you for balance. Remember, keep the tall spine. Okay. Inhale where you are. Exhale, just move the ribcage to the left. Inhale, ribs forward. Exhale, twist. So keep this movement. Inhale forward, exhale, twist. And remember, we're moving the rib cage here. The location of the palms is really just about keeping it kind of stable, but they're not meant to be really weight-bearing. So the next time you twist left, stay to your fuller expression. You can carry the head to turn with you. But do you still feel a tall stacking sensation in the spine? Did one of your glutes start to flex? So oftentimes one of the glutes will kind of flex to kind of force the knee out or to stabilize. Can you release that and have the stability come from just having both an equal weight down and both sides of the pelvis and a tall spine? And test it. Send your right palm out to the left towards the direction you're looking, and the left palm reaching behind you. How simple was that? How difficult was that? Did you immediately start holding your breath? Did your thighs kick in? And maybe you need to come out of it just a little bit so you can relax. Good. Inhale, open both arms towards the front, reach nice and wide, and exhale the palms down. Good. So from here, we're going to kind of open up the shoulders a bit more. So this is pretty simple, but hopefully you're sitting up. You might need to do that to get a full range of motion. What you're going to do is send your right palm out just enough to where it can kind of hover on the mat, or you can just barely touch the mat with the fingers. And then you're going to bring the right palm forward and then go up and then go behind you. And then almost touch the ground. You can even graze the ground. Now, hopefully that there's a nice fluid stillness here. So you should feel this across your sternum, especially as you reach back. You should feel a little bit of movement kind of echoing through the spine and even down to the pelvis. And you're not flexing to stop that movement. There is a bit of a shoulder coming forward, shoulder coming back and up. And how fluid and full can you make this without causing any panic, without causing any overflexing? Do one more big circle, like you're trying to trace a circle with your finger. And then relax the arm down, pause there. Compare the left to the right shoulder. Just notice a difference. Now we've been seated for a few minutes. If this is causing any type of issue, you can change your seating position. Sometimes switching the legs might be a bit odd, but it can end up helping if you have some dead leg syndrome or something happened down there. Or you can sit higher, but wherever you need to do. So take the left hand, same idea, just barely touch the floor, or maybe you hover it. But it's not a hover that's causing a lot of flexion in the shoulder. And same thing, you draw the circle forward to your finger, go up, go back, go down, and just notice what you notice when you make this giant circle. Close your eyes if you can. And what shape is the circle making? Or sorry, what shape is your fingers drawing? And maybe more of an oval? Do you notice that the shoulder kind of quickly wants to move out of a certain area? Are you noticing your back turning on to try to stabilize the spine? Good, and just one more huge full circle. Good, and then bring both hands to the knees, pause there. And then go ahead and do a couple head rolls, or neck rolls, whatever. Smooth, not your fullest version, just something that feels good. So in this, I want your rib cage to be a little fluid, because I want you to experience how the weight from the head moving from side to side gets distributed through the spine, and your ribs are wholly connected to the back of the spine, or to the back. I don't know if it's to the back of the spine, but it's to the spine. Anyway, so the weight, you should feel the ribs tilting. and kind of, in a weird way, also making their own circular movement. And then switch directions. So how relaxed can you make that pelvic or that rib cage? And it's not about moving your ribs now. You're just moving your head. And the weight of it, because you have a relaxed mid-back, is an relaxed trapezius as well. You're allowing the ribs to kind of move on their own accord. Good. Go ahead and relax there. Take a couple breaths. Okay, so from here, we're going to move into a few cat-cows. If you need a blanket to come under the knees, that can be very helpful. But you want to come to all fours. In fact, I'll show you the blanket just in case. So you can also roll up a little wool blanket a few times. It's going to give you a bit of height as well. There's nothing wrong with that. Both palms underneath the shoulders. Okay, and then inhale, belly drops, look up, chin up, shoulder blades try to engage behind you. And exhale, curl in, chin to chest. And just keep moving. Inhale, belly drops, look up. Exhale, curl in, chin to chest. Just moving through your own cat-cows. Increasing the range of movement, maybe a bit further each time. So now, I want you to have a little bit of free movement here. So, what that means is like you kind of let your head go in circles. You let the spine kind of move around. Just do anything that feels good. Let the shoulders move. It's a bit of a weird free movement. It's really just meant to kind of explore what tightness you're kind of wanting to work out. Okay, come into a neutral tabletop position. Take a few breaths here. Okay, and we're going to move into a nice deep dragonfly twist. So bring your right foot forward, right knee on top of the right heel. So first, if you have a block, you can bring it underneath your left palm. You can keep the left knee on the blanket if you wish. And before we come up, just get a nice grounding in the right foot and the left palm. So what that means is that not all your weight is going back to the left knee. You're actively flexing your right thigh. So I want you to actually flex it just a little bit. And I want you to push behind your right toes, the ball of the right foot, very gentle push into the ground, and you'll feel this buoyancy lift up. Same thing with the left palm. I want you to actually push into the floor so you feel this lifting of the rib cage up. Okay? And then the right hand, we're going to do those same circles that we did when we were seated. So the right hand is going to graze the floor if it can, reach forward, reach up, you turn your rib cage to the right, and then you turn your rib cage towards the front. So you make a few big circles, allowing the rib cage to move as it needs to move to assist the turning of the hand. Good. Next time the right hand is straight towards the ceiling or the sky, stay there and just turn the rib cage towards the right, reach up. Keep your breath. Notice what happened. Did you begin to hold it? Okay, take one more inhale. Bring the right palm down to the mat. Move the block to the side. And if you can keep both palms onto the mat, you can just stay right there. If you want to go further, you can bring the left forearm down. Maybe the right forearm comes down as well. And then if you need a little assistance in the hips, you can pivot on the right heel, bring the right toes out. Take a few breaths here. Good. Come back to both palms. Repivot so the right heel, right toes are facing forward. Now, stay right here, and I want you to tend to your fingers on your palm and bring the rib cage slightly up like you're looking forward. Stay right here. Push into the right foot. Now, if you have it in you for the last few breaths, you can curl the left toes underneath. This is an adjustment that doesn't need to happen for everyone, but you come off the left knee for just a couple breaths. Only if you feel that there. And notice what happened to your right foot. Push that right heel, right toes, right ball of the foot back into the mat. Let that be an anchor, not just hanging out. And come back down onto the knee, make your way back into a tabletop. 3 cat-cows here. Inhale, belly drops, look up. Exhale, curl in, chin to chest. Inhale, belly drops, look up. Exhale, curl in, chin to chest. Inhale, belly drops, look up. Exhale, curl in, chin to chest. And then switch, so left foot comes forward. Get the block underneath the right hand. You don't have to have it, it's just if you want it. Okay. And remember what we're doing before. The left palm is just reaching towards the front, up, and behind you. And this movement is really coming about assisting the shoulder opening up. But hopefully you feel this kind of being echoed in other parts. For instance, you might notice that as you begin to reach behind you, your right thigh or the right hip starts to do something. You might get a bit of a stretch. Next time the left hand reaches towards the ceiling, keep it towards the ceiling. Just stay there for your true open arm twist. So for instance, I'm a little bit more tight on this side, so I'm going to move my block to a higher position to allow my rib cage to come up even higher, because that just feels better. Good. One more inhale. Exhale, bring the left palm down to the right side of the left foot. Move the block to the side. Both palms come down to the mat. Stay right here. Or if you want to go a bit further, bring the right forearm down first. Left forearm, if it's available. You can even pivot on the left heel and bring the left toes out if that feels better. Really depends on where you want to go. There's no right or wrong. In fact, you might even keep moving a bit to just kind of experience what needs to be done. Good, and slowly come back to the palms, left heel, left toes back towards the front. You can keep the palms onto the mat. You can tent the fingers. Stay right here and keep pressing the left heel, left foot into the mat. You should feel the left leg strengthening. And then curl the right toes underneath. And if you want to come off your right knee for a few breaths, do so. Straighten the right leg. So that's only if you feel comfortable in doing this. So it really gives a nice relief for the right knee. Gives a nice stretch along the right thigh and the sciatic nerve. Keep the pelvis tucked in. Bring the right knee down. Come back to a tabletop position. 3 cat-cows again. Inhale, belly drops, look up. Exhale, curl in, chin to chest. 2 more. Good. Okay, so now in tabletop position, let's articulate the pelvis movement. So normally when we come down to a cow, you can go ahead and come into a cow. So belly comes down, tilt the pelvis towards the ceiling, shoulder blades try to touch behind you, look up. Now, let your head come down to a neutral position. Keep the shoulder blades back. Keep the belly dropped. Okay? So from here, I want you to push into the mat and let your trapezius, your shoulders relax. So you're kind of coming into a neutral upper back. But you keep your pelvis tilted away. So from the mid-back up, this should feel kind of like normal tabletop position. But from the mid-back down, you're arching. Now, that big pelvic bone you have, I want you to curl it to neutral without nothing else moving. Stay here. So now you should be in full neutral. Now I want you to curl the pelvis back towards the ceiling, kind of like you're coming into cow, but the upper back, mid to upper back does nothing. And then curl the pelvis to neutral. Pelvis away. Pelvis to neutral. Pause here. Now we're going to go the opposite direction. I want you to come into cat position. So chin comes towards the chest. Palms really push into the ground. Shoulders come forward. And you're engaging your ab muscles and pulling the pelvis in towards your belly button. And then we're going to slowly come out of this from the top of the shoulders first. So relax the shoulders. Let the head come up to neutral. And hopefully you still feel your abs engage and your pelvis tucked in towards the belly button. And then relax that. Let the pelvis come to neutral, not arching the low back. And then curl the pelvis in. And then relaxing. So all of this, keep doing this, all of this should be happening in your ab muscles. By flexing the abs, you're tilting the pelvis in towards the belly button. Couple more. Good. Pause and tabletop. Take a moment. Maybe you flip each palm towards the floor to get a wrist stretch. So the reason we did that is that a lot of people have a hard time moving their pelvis irrespective of their back, of their upper back, or irrespective in general. And if that's you, this is a great practice to try to get how do I move my pelvis. And we're going to use that as we come into a bit of Qigong and a Warrior 2 posture. So from here, just slowly make your way to the top of the mat. Move the blanket out of the way. We don't need it anymore. In a forward fold first. Have equal weight in both feet and then slowly melt up to standing, taking your time. Good. Palms face forward. Pull up the kneecaps. Straightening the legs. Feel broad across the chest comfortably. Take a few breaths here. Good. So I like the direction of this where we're just going to open the whole torso. We're going to understand the pelvis. So in that, how I would like to start is coming into a 5-pointed star into a squat, an open arm squat, or a sun god squat, some people call. So first, just bring your legs kind of further apart, heels in, toes out. You're going to reach your arms up. Okay, pull in the pelvis, so you tilt the pelvis slightly forward. Okay, pull up the thighs, engage the thighs, pull up the kneecaps. Arms are actively reaching wide. So this is 5-pointed star. Now, I want you to keep your abs engaged. Take an inhale. Exhale, bend the knees and bring the palms down. So you come into a squat and palms are just reaching wide, palms face up, or arms reaching wide, palms face up. Stay here. Notice what happened to your back. And let's articulate it. So think of your pelvis. I want you to arch your pelvis away from you, behind you. Keep your chest and everything else above it the same. So you're arching the low back. Now tilt the pelvis towards the front. Keep the pelvis tilted towards the front, so you should feel your abs kind of pulling in a bit. Imagine that you're coming into cat position in the waist. Stay there. Hopefully you felt like your knees wanted to kind of come in. Keep the knees out, and you'll feel this in the psoas muscle. Then inhale, reach up, back to 5-pointed star. Give a bit of relief. Stay here. And we'll do just one more sun god. Inhale. Exhale, bend the knees, bring the palms wide. So the palms are not reaching, the shoulders aren't up, they're relaxed. The palms are just reaching out, face up. And then again, pull that pelvis in. Keep the knees out. You should feel a lot of strength happening in the external hips, the stretch in the internal hips. The abs engage, but a nice tall spine. And slowly relax it. Relax it. Shake out the legs a bit. Okay, so we have one more move to do up here, and it's Warrior 2. We don't do that often in this class because it's not the most gentle poses, but it is a great pose to feel expanded. So bring the right foot forward. Okay, bend the right knee. Left foot back, parallel to the back edge of the mat. Arms nice and wide. So we're going to take a very gentle Warrior 2 here. The further apart your heels are, the more intense this posture becomes. So settle, choose something that's sustainable. And actually, bring your hands to prayer first. Let's get this down really well. Bring your hands to prayer. What direction is your sternum facing? So mine is not to the left. It's kind of like between, it's at an angle. So you want your sternum and your chest facing towards the left entirely. Okay, so my right knee is going straight towards the front. My sternum is a 90-degree angle towards the left. Okay, so your chest, hips, pelvis, all facing towards the left. Reach the hands apart. Then look over the right shoulder, the right fingers, without moving your pelvis or your chest. Stay here for a couple more breaths. Tuck the pelvis in. Good. And then one more inhale here. Exhale, straighten the right leg. Bring the right hand down to the right thigh. Left palm reaches up. And if that right hand can slide down to the right shin, go ahead. And if the right palm can just gently touch the floor, go ahead. but you're still keeping the same idea that the pelvis and the chest are all facing towards the left. Come back into warrior two, take your time, and then relax and switch sides. So I'm just going to show you from this angle so you can see it, but you're going to bend the left knee, right leg straight, parallel to the back edge of the mat. Bring the hands to your sternum first. Notice where the chest is angled and try to turn the rib cage and the pelvis towards the right. It's okay. You'll notice that the knee might come in a bit. So first, just get the pelvis, ribs towards the right. Think about that left knee, and without moving the pelvis, try to get the left knee out to the left. If the pelvis needs to twist a bit, that's okay. It's just a bit of tightness. We all have it, especially me on this side. And then reach the arms nice and wide. Look over the left shoulder. So warrior postures can really be any intensity that you make them, but we don't bring them up too much in a gentle class because oftentimes they're full on. And even though we have the choice to bring our heels in closer, most people choose to go for a fuller expression in a warrior pose. That's probably why it's named warrior. There's something in the pose that causes us to kind of go a bit further. Good. On the next inhale, straighten the left leg. Exhale, left hand down to left thigh or left shin. Reach the right hand straight up. This is called triangle pose if you're not familiar. On an inhale, come back up to warrior two, and then settle out. Come back to standing at the top of the mat. Good. So from here, we're going to understand our pelvis. Just going a little bit further. So just bring your feet together. Okay, good. So what you're going to do is balancing the weight in between both feet by just bringing one knee up, bringing it down, waiting till the entire weight transfers to the other foot before you bring up the other knee. So hopefully in this, you should have a relatively stable pelvis. And you should also feel a little bit of tilting. So for instance, when my right foot comes down and I shift my weight to the right heel or right foot, my right pelvis or right hip comes up ever so slightly. And then I bring my left knee up and that comes from the internal hip. I switch. Ooh. Bring up the knee. Go really slow and try to have the knee come straight up. And try to not have anything else from the spine up coming into play. So I'll show you what often happens when we're not good with our balance. We kind of hunch forward like this. Okay. But I want all of this action to be coming from the pelvis, the hips, and the legs. Just do a couple more. Very good. And shake out the legs. Good. And we'll do one set of Qigong here before we get back down to the mat and we do some other stuff there. So again, feet hips width distance apart, heels slightly in. Okay. So we're going to kind of utilize what we learned doing the twists as what we learned with the pelvic movement as well. So first, I just want you to think about your knees and make circles with them, moving the weight. If you're at yesterday's class, I believe we did this as well. And I want your shoulders to be super relaxed. So you can even take a look at the knees and make sure that they're kind of both making circles. Like you see your right knee Curls out, comes in. Left knee curls out, comes in. And then check in with your low back. Make sure that you're not arching the spine. The pelvis is staying tucked in. And then naturally, you kind of start letting your arms flow out, just kind of like you're pushing something away. And then your movement comes a bit fuller, and you're pushing up just slightly as you come left to right. And then eventually the hands get up a bit further. Keep that low back relaxed. And what that means, you're engaging the abs, tilting the pelvis in. Think about cat position. Tucking the pelvis in slightly. So your legs are definitely going to feel this. But that's okay. The legs are very strong. The thighs, the glutes, they're very strong. They're meant to be weight distributing, weight holding, weight bearing, whatever. They're meant to be strong to lift you up. And that force should just move through the spine elegantly. Good. And just do a few more. Become a bit more exaggerated if that's going to help you get the experience of really pushing from the feet. So hopefully your feet start to feel almost sticky. Good. And then pause here. Keep the legs nice and wide. Inhale, reach hands up to 5-point star again. Stay for 3 breaths. Good. And then bring the hands to your pelvis. And we'll do 1 wide-legged forward fold here because that sounds like a really good idea, to be honest. So take a big inhale. Exhale. I want you to bend at the pelvis or at the waist. And then try to get a nice flat spine from the tip of your head down to your tailbone. And then let the hands come down. If they can touch and you can go further, go right ahead. Get to a moment where your head fully drops. Maybe you kind of rock the pelvis left to right, bringing the right hip up, left hip up. Maybe you let your palms go a bit further behind you. Just move in any way here. But I want you to get the sensation from the tailbone through the spine, through the back of the neck, through the tip of the head, this elongating, unraveling, rolling forward. You can shake the shoulders a bit. Maybe you wiggle the head a bit. Come into a bit of stillness wherever you are. Good. And then from there, we're going to make our way back onto the mat in a constructive rest. So you're going to bend the knees a lot. Lean back. Feet onto the mat. Come all the way down. Take a few minutes or a few breaths here to just let the shoulders melt down. Now we did a lot in the pelvis there and a lot in the hips. So let's go and do a hip resetting movement because that really showed up for me right now. So I want you to straighten your left leg down to the mat. Okay. Right foot is fully engaged with the mat and close enough to the glute that the heel to the ball of the foot can really grip the floor. Before we move, I want you to think about your right knee. You're going to push your right foot into the mat. And then you're going to try to bring your right knee straight forward in space. And that action causes the right hip to lift up, causes the pelvis to start to tilt towards the left, trying to stack the right hip on top of the left. Do not force it. Keep the left leg mostly lazy. Go as far as you feel comfortable and then very slowly come back down. Once you're all the way down, fully pause. And we'll do 2 more just like that. Push the right knee forward. Keep the right shoulder blade relaxed. It should be staying on the mat mostly. And then bring the right hip down. Pause. Good. Do 1 more. This one is your fullest version, and you stay there for just a few breaths. So, yeah. There are many reasons why we stay here for a moment. 1 is just to feel it, but 2 is to check in to make sure other things aren't trying to turn on. So, like, do the right shoulder or right pec lift up and lift forward, and are you flexing it? Relax it. Are you embracing the floor with your arms to keep you up? Relax them down. The only thing that should be really flexed here is that right leg, right knee trying to go forward, maybe the right glute as you try to get that right hip a little bit higher, and then relax it all down. Good. And before we switch to the opposite side, let's do a nice psoas release. So just pick up that left leg, send it towards the ceiling. So in this position, again, we're coming into our pelvis integrity and how to keep it stable. So I want you to engage your abs here, keeping your low back on the mat. We're going to bring our left leg down to the floor. Going to keep the left heel flexed, keep the left leg as straight as possible for you. So if there's a slight bend to the knee, that's fine. But you just want to keep the sensation that you're trying to kick forward through the left heel. And then very slowly start to bring the left heel down. But during this time, going so slow, keep your abs engaged. Do not let your low back leave the mat. If it starts to happen, pause there, engage your abs, and then keep going down. Let the shoulders relax. Keep kicking forward. And when you get close to the ground, keep kicking forward and go even slower. Keep the abs engaged. And when you've gotten to the point where you've touched or you've gone as far as you can go, stay there for a couple breaths. Let the shoulders relax, let the upper body relax. This is just the leg doing a lot of work and the abs. And then turn it all off. Pause. Good. Now we're going to switch to the opposite side, but we're going to do this in a very lazy way. It's also going to be a nice hip opener way. So how we often switch to the other leg in somatics is you're going to slide the left heel towards the groin and let the left knee go out, like so. And then you pick up the left knee, plant the left foot, just like that. And we're going to bring the right leg down and out. And just by bringing the right knee out first, and then slide the left heel long. And same thing, start your little hip movement here. So plant that left foot firmly into the mat, push the left knee forward, let the hip climb, let that left shoulder stay glued and relaxed down to the ground. Go as far as you're comfortable, stay for a moment, and then melt back down. When you come all the way back down, take a moment and pause and fully rest. And go again. So for this side, it's actually hard for me to rest. My hip comes all the way down. I feel this wiggling, this jiggling sensation. And that's because I use my left hip way too much. So it has a hard time turning off. Which means I really need to focus on my way down about relaxing. One more time, get the left hip. Go to your fullest expression that you wish to do and stay there. Scan the system, make sure nothing else is coupled. No shoulders, no gripping the ground, no forehead, frowning. No breath being held. And then bring the left hip back down to the ground, very slowly. Pause when it's all the way down. And let's do our psoas release on the right side. So just pick up the right leg towards the ceiling, flex the right heel. We know the drill. Engage your abs, flatten your low back. Pretend that you're kicking something in front of you as you slowly bring the right leg down. About halfway is when that pelvis is going to want to do something. But have your integrity. Think about cat position, hugging the pelvis in, engaging the abs as you slowly come down. And when you get really close to the floor or you sense you're close, you go even slower. Keep kicking through the heel. Keep trying to straighten the leg. Whenever you touch, you stay flexed a bit. Make sure the low back is not flexing here. It's just the abs and the leg. And then relax. Take a few moments here. Good. And then from here, try to, as lazily as you can, bring the right foot back to the mat. So remember, that's with sliding the right heel towards the groin, letting the right knee go out. And then picking up the right knee, coming into constructive rest. So take a look at your hips and thighs. Make sure everything's hip width distance apart. And we're just going to do 5 rolling bridges. So what that means is that we're going to do an arch and flatten, picking up the pelvis each time when we flatten. And by the 5th breath, hopefully you're in full bridge pose, which is where the pelvis is as high as it can go for you. So just inhale, arch the low back, let your pelvis tilt away, belly comes off the ground. You should have a lot of space between your low back. And on the exhale, you release your low back. When it's fully released, you engage your abs, pick up your pelvis a couple inches. Then melt the spine down before the pelvis touches. Pause. And repeat. Inhale, arch. Exhale, release, flatten. Then pick up the pelvis, go a few more inches. And then melt the spine down, one breath or one vertebra at a time. Pause once it's all the way melted down and relax. And repeat. Inhale, arch. Exhale, release. This is your 3rd set, so you're about 2/3 of the way up the spine. Knowing that in 2 more breaths, we'll get in the full bridge, so melt the spine down, one vertebra at a time. Once you fully melt down, you fully turn off and pause for just a second. And again, inhale, arch, 4th time. Exhale, release. Melt the spine, lift the pelvis up, almost to full expression. Melt the pelvis or the spine down, one vertebra at a time. Try to touch each one individually. And when you've fully melted down, turn off all your muscles. Relax. And one more time, fullest expression. Inhale, arch. Exhale, release. Flatten. Pick up the pelvis. Go as far as you feel comfortable going. And take a moment here, when you've gone as far as you can go, think about your left and your right side of your hip bone. Think about your left leg and your right leg. Does one of those legs feel like it's doing more work, that it's stronger? Does one side of the glutes feel stronger? That may not be the case for you, but it is the case for me. So try to even it out. So for me, it means I need to actually push a little bit more into my right leg and into my right hip and my right glute. And now it feels more even. That may be the opposite for you, or you may not experience that at all. Two more breaths here. This is a bit strengthening. Now, before we come down, listen very carefully. We're going to melt one vertebra of the spine down at a time. I want you to try to feel each vertebra. They're about 1 inch long, coming down, and I want that pelvis to be the very last thing that touches. So your glutes, very last thing that touches. I want your low back to fully touch first. So go ahead and start that process. Taking several breaths to do it. This is a great spine lengthener exercise. And when everything has melted down, keep the tiniest engagement with your abs. So the whole back, whole spine is now melted onto the mat. And then just turn off your abs ever so gently. Stay here for a few breaths. You might feel a bit of desired movement. So for me, my low back really wants to arch because I'm used to that. That is my pattern. You might feel like the shoulders have lifted up, or the shoulders might really want to lift up. From here, send the legs out nice and long. Just for about 1 minute of Shavasana, let the palms come out wide, face up. And in Shavasana, we're coming in tune with gravity, letting it wash over the entire system. This ever so gentle push or lull. If it's hard to understand the sensation of gravity kind of pushing you down and elongating the whole body and relaxing the muscles, think about the stickiness of your body on the ground. So if your arms are touching the floor, or your heels, your glutes, think about that pressure that's happening there. Imagine it's almost like you're laying on a sticky floor. And that stickiness is getting stronger the more you stay there. Kind of like glue as it dries. Good. Slowly wiggle your fingers and toes. Inhale, reach the palms up. Exhale them behind you. Slowly make your way into a Fetal position, lying on either side, knees bent. Nice and lazy. And then from there, make your way up to a cross-legged seated position. Again, nice and lazy. Hands can come wherever they want to. Comfortably tall spine. Just take a few breaths to notice how the body feels, how the mind feels. Let whatever learning integration happen. Good. Go and bring hands to prayer. We'll do one side together. Inhale through the nose. Sigh it out. Inhale, a thumbs up to third eye, chest dry. And exhale, bow. Namaste. Great. Thank you very much for coming to Gentle Flow. Today we did some couple different things that we probably haven't done before, like the sun god position, some pelvis integration. So a big tip there, pelvic movement and like arching, flattening, and twisting and all that. It can be very difficult for a lot of us out there, even with the most experienced yogis are not really familiar with just moving the pelvis on its own. If you do the cat-cow position when we're on all fours and you say come into full cow or full cat, and then you try to turn off the head, the neck, the shoulders, and the upper back, you relax that, but you keep the pelvis where it is, then you can start to notice how my pelvis moves by movement of the abs and by movement of the low back. That's very useful to know how that works and to be able to control it, because if you're someone who does yoga and a lot of times you're in pain at the end of class, which is very common, oftentimes it's due to lack of ability to move the pelvis on its own, and which means it's a lack of ability to know what the pelvis is doing in the first place. It's also great for walking. It's great for sitting, to have that integration of knowing, oh, I'm arching my back when I'm sitting at the computer. Okay, I need to tilt the pelvis in, sit more upright. Okay. All these classes are donation-based. If you can donate, great. If you can't, that's fine as well. There might be some changes coming. We're looking at having some shorter classes as well. We're going to keep this one the same for sure. But there's been some requests for like 30-minute yoga workouts and stuff like that. Yeah, and that's all. Thank you very much for coming, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. I know I will.